Today on Co-op for Two, so you want to try a narrative detective mystery game. Okay, so today we're going to do something. We're starting a new series, basically. It's a recommendation series, and so you want to try whatever. Okay. So today we're going to talk about narrative detective mystery games, which isn't the official name of a genre, but it's what I'm calling games where you're mostly reading, usually large blocks of text, and you're trying to put together a mystery, try to find the solution to a mystery, and usually you answer it in some multiple choice questions or some free form questions and then check your answers. So yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, this is probably your favorite genre of game, is that right?
This is my favorite genre of game, and I enjoy playing with you. I mean, it's the games where we can discuss and like go for a walk and talk about what we've been doing. I love that. Any game where you can take a long walk to discuss the case.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's your first category for people who want sort of the historical, literary, serious writing, really put you in the travel back to a different time. For those people, I would recommend the classic Sherlock Holmes consulting detective series. You could either start with the first box, which has been reprinted, called The Thames Murders and Other Cases, which started out in 1981, or the newest box, The Baker Street Irregulars, which David Neal wrote, and I did a bunch of playthroughs and reviews, which I think is outstanding writing. So that would be that is a serious deductive mystery solving. There's some real work you'll have to do to figure things out, but tons of reading.
I think so I'm of two minds about this. So for your category, I would agree. Like, I think it's, you get the newspapers to look through, you have the little map and you look up the businesses and you're reading these sections of it.
That's right.
Which is really cool. Now, I've mentioned to you, and I think on the channel before, I was also, I remember playing these solo, a bunch of them, and I made scones, and I made some, or I bought some clotted cream to dunk them in, and I had my tea, and I started a fire.
You really put yourself back to the 1800s.
Yeah, and I sat and I read the papers and stuff, and really took my time doing those, and so that was quite a lot of fun. I mean, on the gamey side of it, which you're not including for this, like, I find that it's like not quite a game, and I have a kind of a little list of things that really rub me the wrong way about it. But I think for this category, if that's what you're going for, it's an absolute win. And do that. Make yourself some tea, get some scones, really kind of amp up that atmosphere.
Yeah, embrace. I mean, we differ on how much we enjoy these as sort of games. I do love them as games, but I love being able to travel back in time and feel like I'm in the 1800s. And these Sherlock Holmes games are really good at that. All right. What about the person who is interested in, wants the most clean, polished, elegant system with the most pure, real deduction, real mystery? For that, Chronicles of Crime, a game that we both love, that made our top #1 of the year, and we just loved it.
Yeah. I mean, this to me, you're putting it as, this one to me is the best that works as a game. Like, the others might have a good narrative or whatever, but have a lot of flaws as a game. This does what they do fantastically well, and it's also the best game, like gaminess in terms of actual deduction, having the best questions, making the best gamery sense, so that you could arrive at the right decision, not through it's not like a riddle where it's well, you could have, you were looking for that exact answer there, it's and you just happen to say another thing that was equally plausible. No, this one is really fantastic. Well, I actually think it's the best. It really does everything the best. To me, it really kills anything else.
It checks all your boxes. For me, it checks a lot of the boxes, not all of them. But
they do have a number of different, they have noir, which is incredible on its own, which is another time period for Chronicles of Crime.
If you want to go back to the 40s, noir is amazing.
They have another one called Redview, which is sort of more of that sort of spooky haunted town type thing.
And kids, little teenager.
Yeah,
kids.
But it's great also. It's not as good. But then they have these newer ones that take place in other time periods that we haven't
1400,
actually
1900, 2400.
But I think just
Base
when
box
it's
is great too.
you can fast forward 5 years later when we're done doing this video, and you're gonna be like, nothing else. You don't need anything else but Chronicles of Crime.
Well, Chronicles of Crime is a
Yeah.
great place to start. If you had to pick any of these and you
Mhm.
weren't sure, Chronicles of
It
Crime
is
would be where to
app-based.
start.
That should be said.
It
but
is
I mean,
app-based, and it's
still-
got some mechanics that these others don't. It has a 3D virtual view where you're sometimes looking around the crime scene, and it has a very different mechanic. It's not like the others where you're going to a place and reading the paragraph. It's much more dependent on saying, let me show this object to this person or ask this person about this person.
No.
But it does feel more like a game in that sense.
This is a very problematic genre that many games have attempted to do well, and a lot of them have not done well. And this game has figured out how to make it feel really exciting and be able to ask questions to different people
Yeah.
that you wouldn't be able to. And
Yeah.
it does feel like a board game. It does not feel
And
like an
it's
app game.
fast, and it's
Yeah.
paced beautifully, and there's no real downtime. So yeah,
Well, we could gush forever. Maybe
Yeah.
we'll go to the
Yeah.
next one.
Okay. Now, on the other side of that, if you're not so much interested in really stressing your brain to try to solve these mysteries, if you're more interested in the immersion and the feeling of being in a place and a time and reading story, but you don't want the pressure to have to solve something, I would recommend, and if you like a different sort of setting, spycraft, I would recommend Vienna Connection, new game that I did a playthrough of. And what's odd about that one is that unlike all of these others, you're not quizzed at the end to try to guess and solve the mystery. You're sort of doing that on your own, trying to solve this. But at the end, you're just sort of told slightly branching storylines depending on what leads you followed. And Vienna Connection is super immersive. There's this giant stack of 100 full-sized little documents and sheets. And you really feel like you're behind the scenes in this world, looking through reams of documents, trying to find a needle in a haystack. It's a very immersive experience that doesn't challenge you. Like, even if you get to the end, you don't know what's going on, you still have fun. You've got 4 missions in a campaign. Very enjoyable. Makes you feel like you're immersed in that world.
This is one I have not played, so I can't comment on it. But I will say that, like, although there are a lot of games set in the Cold War era, which is a great, rich, very fascinating time of history, and is a really good backdrop for a board game. But I've not seen anything that really takes place as a narrative in this sense. So that kind of piques my interest for that sort of thing. But I haven't, as I said.
And it's interesting. It's sort of, there's a lot of moral ambiguity and ethics stuff that you're not the uninvolved detective. You're sort of in the middle of doing this spy stuff. So it's cool. It's got some cool events. Now, we're trying to tackle all these different corners to find one that meets your interests. Okay, if you've seen it all, if you're like a connoisseur of this genre and you're looking for something that's really gonna test you, I would recommend you check out the 1985 out of print game called Gumshoe, which was created by the same people who made Sherlock Holmes soon after it. And it's very hard to find, but you can get it on eBay. I did like 5-6 videos of this game, but this is a game more than any of the others that really tested my stamina and ability to take notes. I've got like a 30-page document of notes, and it's 10 cases. They're all connected. They're all flowing through. You've got fingerprint analysis. But like, if you really love this genre and you want to try something different and take a little time capsule back to 85 and then from 85 back to the 30s, check out Gumshoe, or at least check out my video on Gumshoe.
Well, and I'll mention, I have not played this one either, but like, just when you were showing me the boxes, when the opening the box, and just going through the components, it's really cool. There's like fingerprints that you can use to like match people with fingerprints. There's lots of maps and newspapers and
autopsy scenes, medical reports,
which is so cool. You really look at that and you're like, I want to play this game, and that looks neat. However, just from talking to you off camera about it, when you were playing it and stuff, like, it does sound like it has a lot of trappings of like poor design that doesn't benefit from like this new like last 15 years.
It does not feel like a
modern
modern game. It absolutely does not feel like a modern game.
If you're going to play, you got to go in with the caveat, like knowing that like you're going to have to stomach some poor design and spot.
Yeah, you have to have some tolerance for it. The
downtime,
writing is amazing though, but yes, not as polished as a modern game. If you want to be a modern, current age detective with all the technology and stuff, then Detective, a modern board game made by the same people, Portal Games, who did Vienna Connection. Now, Greg and I, this was the first game we played during COVID. We sort of didn't play any games because we were isolating, and we said, let's try this
Yeah,
online.
it's perfect. Like it is perfect for each of you to have. We each bought our own
That's
copy of the game,
Mm-hmm.
and we played via Zoom, which I don't prefer to do. I like to play games in person.
Both of us.
But because so if you're a long distance person, like you say, oh, there's a friend of mine, and I want to play a game with them, or relatives, or someone like. For COVID, like when that first hit, that was our way to like we would play via Zoom, and you could look at the board, read the cards, talk through the camera, take your notes and stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and it worked beautifully.
Yeah,
Each of us having an own copy was essential, of course.
Yeah, and you could go on the internet, and
Mhm.
this was the game where like when you tell people we play this, and I try to guess how long it took us to play. Greg reminds people that like we would spend 2 hours recapping the previous session before we would start playing.
Yeah.
There would be a 2 hour recap, so we were all in on this game. We really discussed everything and paused and stopped. Now, I loved the experience. The whole thing was so I enjoyed it so much. But you had very mixed feelings about it, especially at the end.
Yeah, so I felt like it was like these games, and this I should have said this at the beginning because like this genre of game for us, and this is I really believe this style of game, you get out of it what you put into it. So like most people will just maybe read a clue and then be like, okay, what's this person say? But we make a very big habit. We read a clue, ask a person a question, something, and then we discuss. We have a long discussion like, well, we find there's like a body and there's a couple of clues or whatever. We don't jump to this crime scene right away. We talk about like, well, these things are present. It could be this motive. It could be this, could be this, could be this. And we have a lot of discussion about what could, and of course, we could read the next thing and invalidate most of our theories. But the fun is having those theories and having that discussion. And so this game really lent itself to that experience. We could, stop at each moment and really we put a lot into it. As you said before the game, we talked about everything. So I really like that aspect of it. Now, it also has a lot of neat things where you look things up online or use Google Maps to like look at areas and things and watch little videos and things. I'm not giving you any spoilers here, but there's quite a lot of interesting things that you can do that's part of that system. But I felt like they really kind of were like, we have this whole world of interesting things that we can do with it. And they did very little with that in actuality. So I think that like as a game design, it's a neat idea, but they really only really lightly dip their toe in it. So that's my one thing. But then my second thing is more story based. And I'm going to be vague here, but the first bunch of cases are really interesting and they're pretty different and they led to a lot of discussion. The ending, I felt like sort of invalidated a lot of the interesting because like you're like these threads are so cool and maybe it's this and maybe that, and when it ends it's like too
Okay,
negative.
well, you've made a bunch of comments. Let me just reflect
sorry,
on a couple
it's
of
not
them
a
because
monologue,
I think
it's
they're
dialogue.
all great comments. It is absolutely true that you get out what you put into these games, and that if you're the kind of person who's just like, let me just read to the end, let me not think about these things, it's not going to be satisfying. You really have to take your time with these games. And in the same vein, it helps if your attitude or what you appreciate is the journey rather than the end. It's very hard for any of these games to live up to giving you the ending that is like a great movie ending. It's very frequently in all of these games that you get to the end and you're a little underwhelmed, maybe because you built it up in your head.
But one way to put it.
But I go into these enjoying the journey of the theories we come up with, and it's not that important the exact ending. The other thing that frequently happens with these games that you don't like, Greg, that I'm more tolerant of, is sort of the illusion of choice. When we play these games, you're sort of part of what's happening behind the scenes is you're being given this illusion that you're in control of some actions, but you're not. It's a little bit on rails. And you get a little upset when we get to the end and you look behind the curtain, you're like, what the hell? We were on rails. And I'm like, hey, if you made me think during the game that I was in control, I'm more forgiving. Okay, here's our last thing, and then we'll sum up. So here's a game that Greg and I both disliked quite a bit.
And you can watch the review and all the playthrough and stuff on the channel.
Right. But it occupies a unique slot in terms of being a competitive detective narrative mystery game, and that is Detective City of Angels. Neither of us liked it. We tried playing several scenarios. It just fell flat, but some people love this game.
You're actually incorrect here, but I'm gonna point of fact here, my
Okay.
friends. So Sherlock Holmes, the consulting detective, is also
Wow.
is like all of them. There's many of them
Not
that are
really.
actually competitive. That you're
Not
keeping
really.
how many track of how many questions you ask versus
Yeah, not really. But Detective City of Angels really is.
Sure, for sure.
You're-
Because there is a person running the game.
This person running the game who you're up against, and you're trying to hide information from the rest. Although you can play it, it's got different modes. But anyway, it didn't work for us. But you might want to give it a chance if that's your thing. Okay, so to close up, these are, as you pointed out, these are my favorite kinds of games because they're so you can really chew on them for hours and hours and hours. And I love the discussions. I love when we play and we're like, why would they do this? Why would this?
This is when we play Jesse Smith. Let's take a walk, and then we'll go and we'll kind of discuss, which is awesome.
And I just love it's when you play a cooperative game. Sometimes you feel like you're kind of playing a solo game. It's nice to have someone with you. In these games, you're thinking things through and having someone else to bounce ideas off of and see things in different ways. That's when they're most satisfied. All of these games are big enough in scope that there's too much information. It overwhelms one person, and having multiple people really makes it fun because you will have paid attention to things they didn't. They will see things you didn't.
Or
They'll see flaws.
just plain remember things.
Just
Like be like, things, and be like, I think like you put together some theory. You're like, I think it's this, this, and this, and this, and then you're like, but I just can't figure out this part of it. And it's like, wait, it's because of that, and you're like, oh my god, that fits perfectly, you know. And like you sort of come, you both work together, and it's that exciting moment of like sort of figuring that out. So I think it is very fun.
Yeah, I mean, so if you're interested in this, give one of these a try. Let us know which one works best for you.
If by one of these you mean Chronicles of Crime, then I'll totally agree with you.
Chronicles of Crime would not be a bad place to start. But Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective System series is very special. Some of these are special in a way that Chronicles of Crime.
If you're only going to buy one, you could get all of it out of. I mean, really, essentially, Chronicles of Crime allows you to get
all of it out of Chronicles of Crime, but you can get a lot.
But I'm saying those time periods, and especially as they come out with more and more stuff, downloadable scenarios. To me, it was the game that came out and just it was like invalid.
And all the rest go in the trash.
Rest of the genre, it's like why?
Mostly true. I will point out though that you need an app to play Chronicles of Crime, and a lot of people still feel that takes a little bit away. Sherlock Holmes is like sitting with a good book. You can watch, we've done playthroughs of Chronicles of Crime. Most of the games here, actually, you can find a playthrough on our channel, including one we didn't mention, Mythos Tales, which is sort of horror Sherlock Holmes. But you can watch playthroughs of almost every game we've talked to and reviews of most of them. We will be doing, at some point, a super long sort of roundup of all these games. Big, long, deep review. But I would love to hear if people have different reactions to some of these, if they like games that we don't, or you know, just I'd love to hear your thoughts on these, and I hope they keep making them because I love them. All right, we'll see you next time. Oh, consider subscribing if you want to see more of these videos. You might even become a Patreon supporter. And we are having a live Q&A channel update in June. It would be wonderful to have some of the people who watch these videos, if there are any, stop by, say hello, ask some questions, tell us what games you like, tell us what Sherlock Holmes case was your favorite, what Chronicles of Crime mission was your favorite. Any final words?
See you later. Okay. Thanks for joining us.
See ya. Today on Co-op for Two, so you want to try a narrative? Greg, that's creepy. Today on Co-op for Two, so I did. Why are we doing this so many times? All right, Greg, you're gonna make me. I can't use these.